everyone, and welcome to hole number 1 in the Club Oceania tournament, the play from the second tee, which is the Pro and Expert division. This is the playthrough. You can see in the video description down below, you can see direct time links to all the specific holes in this playthrough, so you can skip a hole if you do not want to watch it. First, we're going to start off with hole number 1, as I said. And the video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. So, we're going to play on the right side as we're not going to have the wind to play over. The thing to have in mind here while playing on the right side is that you're playing slightly downhill. So you have to adjust your shot around 10% extra. And that is the same for the second shot, as you can see already on the view here that we're playing downhill. When it comes to having tailwind here or some side wind, then it's possible for us to play over the island. Have in mind there that you will, with some strong crosswind, be having to play and adjust in the water, which means that the ball will lose distance as we're going to drop down into a lower elevation, you know. And that is very important to have in mind, because that will potentially put yourself going short on that island, so you have to use more overpower than normal. Use only 4 to 5 bars of topspin if you're having side wind, and go with overpower the rest. If you're having tailwind, then you can go and just go with 3-4 bars of topspin, because the thing that we do not want is that we don't want to come in too hot. Okay, 7.1, we're going to play with our Thorn in maximum distance. As you can see, it's both my accounts that I'm playing with. The only thing that I forget to do here is to adjust this shot for being on the left side of the cup, as we're going to slightly coming into the right here. So, we're going with a navigator as well, 7.1, and this is definitely a very good wind for this particular hole. So, on this particular situation, we should add 10%, which is going to, like wind-wise, is going to be 7.8 in wind instead of 7.1. Hit our shot perfect. Let it roll towards the pin, and we're getting it close! Very close, and definitely having this type of wind in the tournament is going to drop at some point, that's for sure. 7.4 now, we do have a little bit more like straight headwind instead of having it to point to the right. But in the end, we do have just a tiny little bit going to the right there as well. 7.4, adding 10%, we're going to go with around the 4 rings here, as you can see. Basically 4 rings, a little bit plus, like 4.1 rings. And hit it perfect as well, and now we're going to get the same type of situation here. But if we say hole number 1 is going to be the easiest hole in the tournament, and we will have to think about that, you know, with a situation. If we take it in that way when it comes to hole number 1, if not having tailwind or side wind, then it's going to be a bit of a boring hole. So we will have to have that in mind while going in. Then we need to study up for the second shot. Now we're going to study up and we're going to talk a little bit about hole number 2. And hole number 2 is one of the Go Cash bays. You can find it on tour number 8, the Asia Pacific. I'm going to have some tailwind here, and then you need to be aware of the extended ball guide that you're going to get when making this shot. So now our opponent is going to play on the left side, and that is an okay way to play, and going to let it like stop just before the rough here. But from this position, it's going to be hard to play it in the way that we want to. Now, of course, you can reach for the green, and this is the way to play if you're having headwind. Other type of wind, in my opinion, is going to be played on the right side. We're going to use a katana to give ourselves some more side spin, and let us have it a bit easier. We're going to use max topspin with our Apocalypse level 4, which is a bit dangerous here. I would say take away 1 bar of topspin here to just make sure that we're not putting ourselves in the rough on top. The hole here is played slightly downhill, not much, so I would add 5% in my adjustment for this drive. And as you can see, we're going to bounce here, and then we're going to come very, very hot, as we did have tailwind. Again, the ball guideline will be extended, and now we put ourselves close to the rough. Sure, this will definitely be a good opportunity for us to go in for the rough bump, but in the end, we do not want to risk that much when when making our drive. Okay, our opponent is having 10.7 in tailwind, and now we're going to have the same. Not the same, but close to it at least, because the thing that was out for is that we're going to get tailwind at least. And then we're going to go for the rough bump. And so for the rough bump, you're either going to play with your long iron or you're going to play with your wood club. And now we're going to play with our Goliath level 7. And as you can see here on the ball guideline, the Goliath's ball guideline is not like maxed out, which means that we will get a little bit more ball guide than it shows. 1 bar of topspin in general if you're playing with your long iron, 1 bar of backspin if you're playing with your short with your wood club. So we're going to adjust this one for being a little bit more than 5 rings on this particular adjustment, like 5.1 rings. And the thing that we will have to see here is that we'll get a very hard push. We get the perfect bounce, but we do come in with too much speed, which means that we will drop out of the hole. And that is something that we of course want to stay away from, because it's not it doesn't help us coming too hot when going for the albatross, and we want the ball to drop, you know, especially when we're coming in straight to the pin. This is definitely, in my opinion, an albatross hole, and something that we need to play for as well. Hole number 3 now, and hole number 3 is going to be par 3, and I would like you to closely pay attention, especially for this shot here. As you can see here, we do have an almost flat surface when it comes to the tip there of the fairway. And our opponent here is playing it from that position, and I don't blame him, because that is definitely going to give a more consistent result on this par 3. The thing that you can do is, of course, use a lot of backspin and play there up front, adjusting for the shot being in maximum distance, even though it's not in maximum distance. So, but we will have to count for it. We are playing this one downhill, and therefore we need to adjust it as we would be in maximum distance. Let it bounce, coming in a little bit too hot, but in the end this will work and will actually win many of the shootouts in regular tour play. So being within like 5 yards of the pin is definitely working. We are going to go with max, with almost max backspin here. And now I can see we are playing a little bit with the ball guideline to give ourselves the best way to go for the pin. And we're going to go on the left side here, even though we do not have that like spot on ball guideline that will help us. In the end, we're going to make this one to the green, and that is what it comes to this hole. I'm finding that flat surface there on the left, but as you can see, as I'm adjusting out to the right, it's very important that I do adjust this one. It's 5.5. I would add half a ring as I'm having a downhill here, so I would adjust this one for 6 rings and make it bounce, and we're coming in nicely to the pin. But in the end, this is a tricky hole. Take the birdie, be happy with it. Hole number 4 here. Hole number 4 is a par 5 of the Namhae Cliffs, and this is going to be a hole that could potentially be an albatross hole in an easy way if we do get some tailwind by the game makers for this hole in the tournament. Or if we're going to get headwind, then we're going to have a very, very tough time. 9.9 here. Our opponent is going to have a struggle to get this ball to stay up there on the island. We need to at least give it a try, and because we don't have anything else to think about, because going on the left side is not going to give us an open shot for the pin, as we're not going to reach that far. So importance, stay on the island there and then go from that distance. We're going to have a little bit stronger when it comes to the headwind, so we're going to choose a pumpkin ball. And a pumpkin ball here is having exactly the same stats as a kingmaker. It was won in an earlier tournament, so don't be alarmed about that. It's exactly as I would be using a kingmaker. So we're going to go with max backspin here, and as much side spin to the right as possible. And now we need to overpower. So even though we reach over there, we will have to use around 75% of overpower. You can see we're using basically 50%, but we need to count for that we're going to hit our ball great sometimes, and then we're going to lose distance. And that is the thing that we do here, and I'm getting very, very close there. As you can see, I'm using a little bit curl to the right, and that is most and best used if you're going to, for an example, have tailwind and want to stand there on the island, or you might going to not have that much backspin on your club. Okay, now for the second shot, and now we are on the island, and from the island we're going to have a big difference when it comes to the elevation here. So, and we're going to play this one massively downhill. When I play this hole, I add around 25 to 35% in my adjustment, depending if I'm going to play in max club, or I'm going to play in medium distance, or I'm going to play in a minimum distance. So as you can see here, even though our opponent did adjust for basically 15 rings, it's going to still go short, and that is the thing that we miss as well. You will going to see it here now. 11.7, here you can see the difference. We're playing uphill, we're playing over water, sorry, we're playing downhill, we're playing over the water. Look at that difference. Such a huge difference, and that will be affecting the ball a lot more. 11.7, and we do want to add, if we're going to go for 25%, 25% of 12 is going to be 4, so then we would be adjusting for around 16 miles per hour, so 16 rings. And as you can see, we did under adjust our shot, and also we need to go with more overpower. As you can see, look at this kick from the ball here, going out to the right, and we need more distance here. Still, a hole that we will see is okay, but in the end, we definitely want to, we definitely in that case will be a little bit more spot on when it comes to hole number 4. But it's an eagle hole. If we get in tailwind, then we can try to go for the green directly with a drive. But in general, this hole is played in that way, in this way, especially if you have headwind. Hole number 5. We're going to play this par 3. We're going to play this par 3 with the Saturn, with both of our counts. So Saturn level 10, we're going to go with 4 bars of backspin plus just a tiny little bit, like 4.1, 4.2 in backspin, 1 side spin to the right. We're going to adjust this one for 5.5 rings. So we are going to, even though we are in, so as you can see here, we're bouncing here, getting it in. We're coming in maybe a little bit too hot. We get the hole in one, but the thing that we do want to stay away from is that we do want to go too far, because that will potentially put us and fall back down. So now, as you will be able to see here now, we're going to play with the Saturn again. We're not going to be in maximum distance, but we're going to adjust this one for being basically in between max and mid distance. So we're going to adjust for 6 rings. And the same type of backspin, the same type of side spin, like 4.2 bars backspin, 1 side spin to the right. Coming in a little bit too much to the left there, but in the end, this is a potential hole-in-one hole in my opinion. So have that in mind when you're playing hole number 5. So hole number 7 now, and now it's time for us to hole number 6 now, and it's time for us to go for one of the Oasis holes. The Oasis hole is going to be something that has been featured, you know, in the Desert Open tournament. So this is a par 4, and as you can see here, we're going to have an opponent that is using the extra mile level 8, and I don't blame him, but I would definitely suggest to use a ball with more side spin, especially if you're going to play on the left side there, because you need curl and you need side spin. If you're going to play on the left side and have a little bit more easier shot to the left, then you need to aim more in the middle and use more curl. The reason for that is there from the left side, just using too much of side spin or too much curl, then you're going to cut the rough many of the times. The shot becomes very well very well made. But in the end, you know, it's our opponent is not giving himself the best situation here. We're going to go with a Titan here, and we're also going to go on the left side. The way for me to go on the right side here would be if I would be having wind for my second shot, that would be kind of northwest. And then going on the left side would be if I would be having northeast wind, because like the second shot is of course the more important one. Having straight headwind or tailwind for the second shot gives us a very a potential, I would say, potential eagle from that distance. We're going to have an eagle opportunity no matter where we are though, but in the end we want to give ourselves the best eagle opportunity. As you can see here, we do make a perfect shot, and now we're going to have an approach shot that I do really like, because now it's rough bump time again. So as you can see there, with the Saturn and headwind, our opponent is not going to be able to reach for the green. Also the tree is going to be away if going straight at the pin. So now he's going to have to play on the left side to just make this ball stop on the green. And that is of course on a short par 4, that is not something that we would like to do. We would like to have a shot for the pin at least. And we will see some eagles here, and I do value this hole to be one of the easier ones in the tournament. Of course the drive is important to now to have a situation like this. 8.6 in wind. We're going to give ourselves max topspin here, which is going to be 4.2 bars of topspin. That is just because I don't want to play that close to the rough. And we are going to turn the screen around, and we're going to adjust for 8.6. So we're going to adjust this shot for being a maximum distance, which is almost 5 rings. And then we're going to take a shot, we're going to hit it perfect and let the ball roll in the hole. You can see get rolling, get in the hole. So let's go to hole number 7, one of the tougher par 3s we do have in the tournament. This one combined with hole number 3 will put players to the test, and we will see a lot of birdies on this one. A lot of pars on this one, I'm pretty sure with that. It does help us that we have played this hole before though. So in just a tournament just a little while back. We're going to adjust on the platform there. 8.7, we're going to adjust for... we're going to adjust for 5.5 rings with our Apocalypse level 6. Max backspin. And now with having headwind, then we're going to come in and be... as you can see, we stop way shorter than we want to, and that is something that we'll need to have in mind while playing this hole, is that if having headwind, the ball is of course going to be affected more by the wind than normally, and therefore we don't need to use that much backspin. Rely on the ball to bounce. If not having an Apocalypse level 6 with that amount of backspin, you can go with the Rocket, which many players will do if you have it at level 10. Especially if you're having like sidewind or tailwind, then you do want to have a driver with a good amount of backspin. If we are having tailwind, then I would say like, then it's not enough backspin how many bars you're using. Doesn't really matter. Then we need to go for the rough bump. And there you need to of course go with a driver with a lot of a good accuracy in ball guard, which could be a good way for the quarterback or the Thor's hammer to make an appearance. So our opponent makes a rough bump here, but coming in way too hot, need to use some backspin here. So this was hole number 7. Let's go for hole number 8. Hole number 8 here, it's a short par 4 of the Namhae Cliffs. And now you will have to have in mind here that no matter what type of wind you're going to have, you most likely play on the right side. The only way you're going to play on the left side, trying to bounce it over to the green, is if you would be having tailwind. Otherwise, you will not be having the opportunity to reach, and you will also put yourself in a very dangerous time trying to go like for a crazy drive, putting yourself in the middle with the trees, or you're going to go out of bounds. Now we're using a little bit too much overpower here, and we're going to the rough for our first shot here. We do play both accounts here, as you will be able to see, but we're going to the rough, and you know, that's okay. It's of course that we don't want to be in the rough. We do want to be on the fairway, but going into the rough here will not hurt us in any way more than we will have a harder attempt for the eagle. So we will still be able to have no problem to reach whatsoever. Here we do play exactly the same shot, just using a little bit more curl combined with less overpower, and now we're going to stay on the fairway here and having an open shot towards the pin. So okay, we do have one attempt from the rough, and we do have one attempt with our short iron to the pin. And of course those are going to be played slightly different. And now with the rough iron, it's definitely going to be a tougher way for us to make this eagle. So again, this is a short par 4, which is going to give you an opportunity to make an eagle. Take that one. Don't try to overplay the hole as I did with my first shot on the drive. Went with 4.5 rings, and now we're going to miss it very much on the left side, which of course the ball is going to go like basically straight forward. I'm going to miss massively. So okay, second shot is the one to be more like focused about, as we are on the fairway here. 9.2, and we're going to, as you will be able to see here, look at the ball guideline when using backspin. We're going a very irregular ball guideline, which means that, okay, now we need to make a decision here. I would love to play on the fairway there because we do have a flat surface, but when having that ball guideline that potentially can just make us stop on the green, not even giving the pin a shot, then I'm going to go for the pin. We're going to adjust this one with 3.5 rings, 3.7 rings. I'm going to hit our ball perfect and focus about the first bounce, which is regular, and then we'll get it in the hole for a lovely little eagle. So hole number 8 was that. We'll go to hole number 9. Hole number 9, par 5. We end up like basically in every single tournament with a par 5. Now we do have some very tricky win, and I do believe, like, I hope we will get some tricky win for this one, because that will make us be very, very spot on with our drive. Because if we're having some kind of headwind, then we need to play on the right side here. We're going to adjust this one for being in max distance, and then we're going to add 10%. So we adjust it for 5.5 rings with our extra mile level 8. As you can see, with the side spin that we do have and 2 bars of backspin, we're just going to counter for the push that we're getting with the crosswind to put ourselves close and nicely there on top, which will give us no problem whatsoever to reach for the green in 2. As I was mentioning, this ball is affected more by the wind as we're playing downhill. So I'm adding 10% with my adjustment for every drive I'm playing here. So now we're going to play with Apocalypse of 6 here. Same type of adjustment, 11.6 we're going to add, so we're going to adjust for 13.2, which is 10% over adjusting. Make it bounce with the max side spin here and combine with 2 bars of backspin. We do use a Titan, as you saw, instead of a Kingmaker, and the difference for us here is that we're not having more side spin, as much side spin on the Titan as the Kingmaker, but we in both cases do want to have power 3. Okay, now we do get some headwind here. The thing that we forget to adjust for here is the ball guideline will be compressed. So as you can see there, I did adjust for my ball guideline to be straight in the hole there, which is going to make my shot be short. We're going to adjust for 10 miles per hour, so we're slightly over adjusting this one, but it won't be enough. So 10 rings for 9.3 here. As you will be able to see here for the first bounce, that it will potentially be very firm in that way that when it hits the fairway, it's basically going to stop. So we need to over adjust for that one, because now we're getting it too short. And of course, we do not want to go too long, because that is going to potentially put us in the rough or in the bunker just off the green. And that is something that I know many will do, because the green also slopes a bit down after the pin. So have that in mind while playing hole number 9. So the second approach is going to go with the Guardian, and the same thing here. We do forget to adjust for the compressed ball guideline. and like the first bounce. So we're going to bounce ourselves in the rough here, even though we are just in this one for 10 rings with a Guardian. So everyone, this was the playthrough for the Pro and Expert division in the Club Oceania tournament. Check out the video description down below, and if you have any questions, please make a comment in the comment section below. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, and here in the end I want to wish you the best of luck in the Club Oceania tournament.